Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another quick edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt. And with this particular episode, I just wanted to do a quick summary video ahead of the 4-day warm-up match, which begins Wednesday, Wednesday the 31st of July in Trinidad at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy. The South Africans will have a warm-up game against what effectively has been billed the West Indies Championship 11. In a nutshell, it on paper looks like the selectors, whoever they are. I'd love to know who selected this squad. Is it Miles Bascombe? I haven't done enough digging to find out who put this squad together. I've got no particular issue with it. I think if you're calling it the West Indies Championship 11, I do genuinely believe that minus one or two players, it's pretty much the next best performing 11 players from last season's championship. So in that, I'm not here to kind of quibble about should this player have been there, should that player have been there. I think they've picked a good enough squad to represent a challenge for the South Africans to contend with in obviously conditions. Brian Lara Academy may play slightly different to how we'll play at Queen's Park Oval next week for the first test match, but these men selected should present a challenge to the South Africans and also, more importantly, answer some questions the West Indies media, West Indies fan base and West Indies selectors, whoever they are, might have over who should come into the test squad going forward. I don't know how many changes are going to be made going into the first test against South Africa. I'll jump off straight off the bat now and say that at best, at the most, I would expect 2 changes. If any, it's highly plausible. It's highly likely that they may make 0 changes going into the South Africa Test series and decide that the same players who went to England deserve the chance to prove themselves in home conditions. Some of those players, Mikael Louis, Kavem Hodge, just to name 2. Actually, Kevin Sinclair's another one to name 3, although he's now injured. So actually, I might change that. I think there may be 3 changes at the most for the first test squad. I'll get to those in a minute. But the point being that Shamar Joseph is another one. Several of these players who went to England haven't even played a home test match yet. Mikael's not. Kavem Hodge hasn't. Shamar Joseph hasn't. Kevin Sinclair, if he was fit, he hasn't either. Right? And when you then add on Kurt McKenzie and Ali Kathanase, who only debuted in the India series at home, essentially half of our squad have no real test match experience. So it's good. That's why there's an argument to say that the majority of this squad, I expect at least 90% of them to be retained. Because can you really make wide sweeping judgments about players when their first 3 series for some of them, or first 2, depending on who we're talking about, was India at home, Australia away, England away? Even if West Indies picked, whoever's listening to this, whoever's watching this, whoever you think are the best 11 players in the Caribbean right now, even if West Indies picked the best 11 in the Caribbean, I would not have expected the overall outcome to have changed. I still probably would have. I mean, really and truly, people, we've played 7 test matches. Our last 7 test matches have been 2 versus India, 2 versus Australia, 3 versus England. Let's be realistic. Who expected more than 1 win and 1 draw from 7? Some might even say that's above expectations. Some might even argue that's above expectations. Listen again. 2 versus India, 2 versus Australia, 3 versus England. Who expected more? Whoever we would have picked as a squad, who expected more than 1 win and 1 draw? given where we were playing people. Australia away, England away, India at home. Let's be realistic. Anyways, that notwithstanding, let's look at this West Indies Championship 11. These are the chosen players selected, if you don't already know. See if I've got the squad. Can I bring it up on the screen? No, I won't. Justin Graves, captain. Casey Carty, vice-captain. Jediah Blades, Joshua Bishop, Tagenarine Shandapur, Brian Charles, Amir Jangu, Anderson Phillip, Niall Smith, Jeremy Solozano, Shamar Springer, Isaiah Thorne, Kevin Wickham, Kemar Roach. What I'm going to do, actually, before I even do that, when I looked at this squad, I went and crunched all the numbers over previous seasons, this season, etc., to try and understand why this person might be in this West Indies Championship 11 or squad to face South Africa, and how much of a claim do each of the individuals have to try and push themselves back into the test squad. So in a minute, I'm going to go through each player one by one. I'm going to try and keep it quick, but I'm going to go through each player one by one. Get at me in the comments below. What do you believe about my analysis? However, there were 3 players when I went back and crunched my numbers and crunched my stats and consulted my eye test. There were 3 players who I reckon would have reason to believe. 4, let's throw in 4. 4 players, I'm going to throw in one more, who would have reason to believe I should be there as well. Jamel Warrican. And the only reason I say Warrican is, wasn't he the incumbent backup spinner? So how is Warrican no longer in the conversation? Now, for all I know, he's playing minor league cricket in Australia, or he's playing club cricket somewhere in the world. For all I know. I don't know, but maybe that's why he's not there. Rakeem Cornwall would have an argument to say, given Kevin Sinclair is injured and is unlikely to play in the first test or second test, he's the next best. Obviously, Ruston Chase, I think, isn't interested in playing test cricket right now. He's playing in the down bad GT20, right? So Rakeem Cornwall would have an argument to say he's the next best bowling, batting, off-spinning all-rounder in the region. I'm not here to argue with anyone about how big he is. That's not my point. Okay, forget the arguments about how big he is. He would be correct to think I'm the next best off-spinning, bowling, batting all-rounder in the region after Kevin Sinclair, who's available for Test match cricket. Obviously, he's been overlooked. Sunil Ambrish would have an argument to say, "Where's my name?" I think Sunil Ambrish was in the top 11 or top 12, maybe even top 10 run scorers in the championship just gone. Some people have got in ahead of him who didn't score, arguably. In fact, let me just check my stats. Because I could be wrong with that, actually. I mean, Ambrish scored more than Justin Graves. Granted, Graves only played 4 matches. No, actually, if we're going on pure out-and-out batters, I can see why Ambrish has missed out, but there would be an argument to say that given he's one of the more aggressive batters in the region and somebody who has the ability to play at a much quicker tempo and not just dot balls out until he's out, he could have an argument to say, how comes I didn't get a chance to stake my claim? So those are the... and the last name, Brandon King. Where is Brandon King, please? Is he playing in the down bad league somewhere? What are the down bad leagues that are playing right now? We've got down bad. In fact, Major League Cricket has just ended. So we got down bad 100. He's not playing in that. Unless he's playing in that GT20. I don't remember seeing his name. He probably is, because everybody seems to have run across to the GT20. But then that would mean that... I guess I just want to know, did anybody ring Brandon King? Did anybody ring him and say, listen, Brandon, you're seriously in our thoughts. I beg you come play this warm-up game against South Africa, and that'll pretty much give us a reason to put you in the Test match squad. I don't know. He's not there, though, and I think he would have been somebody I would have engaged with. I'm not including Shea Hope because he's not studying Test cricket right now. And after that, who else is there? Ruston Chase, he's not studying Test cricket right now. Carl Mayers isn't studying Test cricket right now. So who else is there really that we could be talking about? Anyways, let's go to the 11 or the 12 or 13 that were selected. First things first, Justin Graves. Justin Graves this past season, championship season, played 4 matches because I think there were some injuries he had after Australia. He scored 280 runs at 40 apiece with 3 50s, bowled 61 overs, 2 wickets at 97. Good for Justin Graves. Obviously, he played in Australia. Holder announced he was coming back. Graves got booted out. Remember, Graves didn't perform with distinction in Australia. His highest score was 33. He did take some wickets, though. Holder's come back. Holder averaged, what the average again? Was it 27 in England or 26 in England? He didn't take many wickets, brought some control, but didn't take many wickets and got 1/2 century. People have to ask themselves this question: who performed better, Holder in England or Graves in Australia? That's the first question you need to ask yourself. If Holder's available, and I have no reason to believe he's not, Justin Graves is not replacing him. It's as simple as that. So then the argument people have to ask themselves is there anybody that Justin Graves does replace in the top order? Take Holder out of the equation. Does he replace Athanaze? Does he replace Hodge? Obviously not. Does he replace Kurt McKenzie? Obviously, Kurt McKenzie's position is under huge threat. But when I go through the list of players playing, I don't have Graves at the top of my list. Whether Justin Graves likes it or not, he's competing against Jason Holder. Casey Carty. Now, Casey Carty is in pole position. Casey Carty has a central contract with Cricket West Indies, so that makes him in pole position for me. He's started to show his worth in ODI cricket, starting to score more consistently. Yes, people still have a problem with his run rate, but he's starting to show, certainly in ODI cricket, I'm just bringing up his numbers, that he belongs or could belong at that level. He has currently played 20 ODI internationals, averages 34 with 350s. People have an issue with his strike rate, which is currently 68 in ODI cricket, which is actually atrocious. But the whole point that people have is, surely this man looks better suited to 4-day cricket. Given he's got a central contract as well, how comes he's not already in the squad anyways? Past championship, he's played 6 matches, 496 runs. He was the 5th highest run scorer in the domestic championship, average 41, 100, 550s. I have been told by some of my sources that Carty is going to be named in the test squad for the first test versus South Africa, irrespective of what happens in this warm-up game. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I can only report to you what I have been told. I can't give away my sources. But either way, whether it's true or whether it's not true, Casey is in pole position, as he should be, given he has a central contract, given he performed in the domestic championship, and given Kurt McKenzie's batting woes in England. If he's going to be put to one side, Kurt McKenzie, not dropped, but maybe rested and become like the water runner, Casey Carty's in pole position to replace him. Jediah Blades. Blades played for CCC in the domestic championship, left arm seamer. Looked impressive, but he's only 22 years old. He's a youth man out here. This is a developmental game for him. Nothing more to say about him. There's no way he should be anywhere near a West Indies team, but I've got no problem with them, including a couple of youth men who look like they have some raw tools to work with. And of course, he's a left arm seamer. No problem with that. He took 19 wickets in 7 games for CCC at 35 a piece. But because he's a left arm seamer, let's invest in the Ute man. No problem with that. Joshua Bishop, the #1 wicket taker in the championship, just gone. 7 games, 42 wickets at 20 a piece. Josh has been doing this for a while now. For the he played for the West Indies Academy. He's played bits and pieces for Barbados as well. In fact, let me bring up Joshua Bishop's overall stats in recent seasons, because it's worth people noting this. So Joshua Bishop is 24 years old, and these are his past seasons. So in Ireland, just gone, he wasn't. He had a bit of a subpar time of it in Ireland. When you look at he played some list day games and some red ball games. He wasn't as good as he should have been, and that was a bit subpar. Went to Nepal to play in those T20 games, so got a West Indies A kind of debut. Like I say, championship just gone, 42 wickets. When he played against the emerging Ireland team in the Caribbean, he took 20 wickets at 10 apiece. Super 50 last year, I think it was for Barbados. He took 8 wickets at 24 apiece. Headley Weeks Tri-Series when he was playing for the Academy, 6 wickets at 32. Super 50 before that, 8 wickets at 27. So he's been Super 50 before that, 8 wickets at 26. He's consistently been putting in performances, Bishop, and he's starting to get a name for himself as potentially the spinner in the region, the Ute man spinner in the region with the biggest upside. Is he ready for international cricket? No. I'd like to see him still put in some more numbers before I'd ever. He's a left arm left arm spin bowler. Obviously, Multi is way ahead of him in the pecking order. I wouldn't be playing 2 left arm spinners. Yes, Kevin Sinclair is injured. Yes, Joshua Bishop has all round potential. He scored 252 runs at 23. He's recently shown for both the academy and other formats of cricket. So, he's recently showed for what am I saying? For the academy and in other formats of cricket that he can bat. That he has batting ability. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops that going forward. And he may need to develop that going forward if he's to force his way into international colours. But he's definitely one to watch. Tej Ryan Chanderpaul, we know why he's there. Dropped and replaced by Mikhail Louis. Zach McCaskey is currently the backup opener to Louis and Brathwaite. Obviously, they don't want Tej to just believe that they've given up on him. He scored 323 runs at 29 apiece with only just the 1 century. McCaskey didn't do significantly better than him. In fact, I think they were pretty much the same in the domestic championship. So for Tej, it's just about seizing this opportunity, trying to score a daddy 100 if he can, and making sure that West Indies realise he shouldn't be out of contention. Do I see him getting called up to the West Indies team for this South Africa Test series? No, but it's good that they've got him in this game to see if he can still show that he wants to get back into the side. Brian Charles, the Trini spinner, off spinner. 2 years ago, Brian Charles played against Bangladesh A for West Indies A, and it looked like he was the next person in line to play for the West Indies. If they weren't going to persist with Cornwall, it looked like Charles was next. Somehow, Charles got leapfrogged by everyone. Leapfrogged by Permol, leapfrogged by Warwican. Cornwall had his goal, and all through this, Brian Charles has just not had a chance, which makes little or no sense to me. This is Brian Charles's bowling for Trinidad and Tobago in the last 6 4-day championships, going back to 2018, 2019. 20 wickets at 31. Sorry, at 30. 17 wickets at 29. 16 wickets at 28. 21 wickets at 25, 31 wickets this past season at 17. If that's not consistency and, more importantly, improvement, yes, down bad pitches, down bad batters, down bad everything domestically, but the man's still putting up the numbers. He's 29 years old now, and he's still not got his opportunity. He's not a batter by any stretch of the imagination, but if we believe that pitches are going to be low and slow and spin in Trinidad and Guyana, and we believe we have to go in with 2 spinners, for me, Brian Charles is in pole position. It's going to be very intriguing for me to see how he does in this game in Trinidad, at home for him against South Africa. If he performs, I would expect him to be named as Kevin Sinclair's replacement for the first test in Trinidad at Queen's Park Oval. That's my expectation. I've got no inside information to believe that's the case. I guess what I'm saying is that's what I would be doing. Yes, people are going to say, what about the batting? What about this? What about that? If you're going to play 2 spinners, Charles, for me, is ahead of Joshua Bishop in the pecking order. Amir Jangu, 5 matches in the championship, 500 runs at an average of 100. Obviously, scored a double century in there, which is one of the reasons why he's got an average of 100. 102 50s with 3 not outs, which also would have helped his average. And he was the 4th highest run scorer in the domestic championship. Carty was 5, the 5th highest run scorer. And I think Carty's going to be named in the squad. For Jangu, this is just an opportunity again to keep his name in selectors, whoever they are, to keep his name in their thoughts. Hopefully, for someone like Jangu, there's so many players like this in the region. Let me just look up Jangu. How old is Jangu now? He's probably 30. Let me look up how old Amir is, because he's been playing for a while. Amir Jangu is 27. Okay. We've seen him in like CPL. Amir Jangu is super talented. But again, it's just another example of a player in the region who you can't believe they're 27 years old, because you know they've been around for a lifetime, but it's just not clicked for whatever reason. But I don't doubt that Amir's got the ability. Hopefully he can use this opportunity to score some runs. Obviously, I assume he's going to keep wicket, score some runs, and just keep his name in the contention for future West Indies selection. I don't think we should be looking at him as pigeonholing him as just a wicket keeper in the same way how I wouldn't be pigeonholing Tevin Imlach as just a wicket keeper, or even Josh De Silva for that matter. Anybody who can score runs. In fact, no, because did Django even keep wicket? Because obviously Josh plays for Trinidad as well. But anyways, the point is, wicket keeper or not, score runs, because anybody can get into our batting lineup if you put numbers up. Doesn't matter what your primary role is or isn't. Anderson Phillip. I've heard rumours that Alzari Joseph is going to be, some say rested, some say dropped for the South Africa series, or certainly the first game against South Africa in Trinidad. If that is the case, Anderson Phillip is the person I expect to be named if Kemar Roach is not fit. Anderson Phillip, remember, was already, go back, how long ago? 18 months ago. And he was the next in line. He debuted against Bangladesh, looked good on debut. I think he broke down in Australia, was it? And he's had injury problems and so on and so forth. But Anderson Phillip was supposed to be the next person. Let me go look at his, let me bring up his numbers, let me bring up his career stats as well. So Anderson Phillip was supposed to be the next person to come through to get their opportunity as a West Indies international bowler. He's 27 years old, youth man. When did he make his debut? So let me look at it. So he made his debut in June 2022, so 2 years ago. Went to Australia, if I remember rightly, then broke down, has had injuries pretty much over the last 12 months or so, and found himself inexplicably back down the pecking order, when in reality, this season he's just had in the first class championship 29 wickets at 19 with 2 fifers. For me, he's proved that he should be considered again. So if Alzari is going to be rested, dropped, whatever it might be, and if Kemar Roach is deemed not fit enough to be back for the first test or whatever it might be, then Phillip's the next person to be picked for me. He was the second best bowler, fast bowler, seam bowler in the region. Obviously, you don't know already how it goes in our region. Top 10 bowlers, 8 of them were spinners, all innocuous, most of them. And then there was only 2 seamers in the top 10. Jeremiah Louis, who's obviously already with the squad. So some of you might say, Mash, what about Jeremiah Louis? Surely he's next in line if Alzari has to sit. Yes, assuming Jeremiah's fit. Remember, he missed the 3rd test because of injury. The turnover between the end of the 3rd test versus England and the first test versus South Africa is like 10 days. I don't know if Jerry's going to be fit in time. I also don't know if what I've been told about Alzari being forced to sit is true or not. So I'm just looking at who my next options are. Obviously, he'll go to Kemar Roach if he's fit. If Kemar isn't fit, then I'm looking at Anderson Phillip. Moving on, Noel Smith. Noel Smith, 4 matches. He had injuries as well in the season just gone. 4, but he took, when he did come in, he took enough wickets. 4 matches, 20 wickets at 17 apiece, 1 fifer. I don't know where I stand on Noel Smith. If you'd asked me 3 years ago, I had stocks in Noel Smith. I thought, yeah, Noel Smith's going to be the next guy to come through as a seam bowler, and he just fell off a little bit. He fell off and wasn't as consistent in some of the competitions I saw him in domestically, and he's come back this year and shown the levels that I thought he was going to show consistently when I first put my stocks on him 3 years ago. He's not leapfrogging Anderson Phillip for me, but I'd like to see him perform in this warm-up game against South Africa. And again, we just continue to monitor someone like Noel Smith, and if and when his chance comes. Jeremy Solozano, obviously you would expect that him and Tagenarine Chanderpaul will open against South Africa against South Africa. Solozano scored 330 runs at 30 apiece, no hundreds, 250s. I mean, him, McCaskey, and Chanderpaul, it was all much of a muchness. But obviously, Machel Louis his place is set. That 50 at Edgbaston certainly means his place is set. Him and Craig will continue to open. The next time we have an opener conversation will be only when one of Craig or Machel is injured, or if Machel is down bad versus South Africa, and then we get to Bangladesh at the end of this year, maybe we're having a conversation then. But it just seems like Solozano and Chanderpaul will be the next 2 after McCaskey if and when the chance to play another opener happens. I don't see them playing Solazano or Shandapol at 3 to replace McKenzie. So it's just about them getting some game time and essentially battling to see who would be the next in line if there were injuries to Louis, McCaskey, etc. Shamar Springer. Remember him? Go back to that 2016 Under-19 World Cup winning team. Casey Carty was in it. Hetmeyer was in it. Chemo Paul was in it. Obed McCoy was in it. Alzari Joseph was in it. Was Alzari Joseph in the 2016 one? Yeah, it was, wasn't he? Enough man were in that. Ryan John was in it, I believe. Enough man were in that 2016 World Cup winning team, you know. Let me go look at that squad. That squad had enough man in it, you know. World Cup 2016 Under-19 West Indies. Here we go. The Under-19 squad. This was a squad. Hetmeyer, Carty, Gooley, Imlak, Pope. He fell off, to be fair. Chemo, Paul, Odine Smith, Shamar Holder, Alzari Joseph, Obed McCoy, Shamar Springer. Remember him. Certain proper West Indies historians who remember that Under-19 side. Shamar Springer was... Right, sorry, people. Shamar Springer was supposed to be one of those people like Chemo Paul, like Odine Smith, like Hetmeyer, like Carty, like Gooley, like Imlak. That whole squad, McCoy, what a madman squad. That whole squad was expected to kick on and do something. Shamar, in the last year and a half, maybe 12 months, has really started to show people, don't sleep on me yet. And again, Shamar's story to me, or development, obviously he's playing for the Windward Islands franchise, which is probably why he's been able to develop better over the last 18 months or so, because it's hard for him to get, it would be hard for him to get a go in the Barbados franchise. So many Barbadian players can't get into that Barbados team, right? Anyways, Shamar Springer this season was the 11th best bowler, 3rd best seamer in the region, in the championship, and the 13th best batting run scoring in the region. That's a proper all-rounder. 367 runs at 41 apiece with 250s, 28 wickets at 24. If we're talking about challenging Jason Holder is 33 soon, or is already 33. If we're talking about who will replace Jason Holder as a seaming, batting, bowling all-rounder, it's not Justin Graves, people. The person to watch is Shamar Springer. I hope that Shamar can continue this trajectory that I've seen from him in the last 12 months or so, because if I'm Shamar Springer, and Shamar, if you're watching this, because I know enough players watch this show, if I'm you, Shamar, I'm really, really, I'm doing whatever I can to maximize my performances in the next 12 months, because if it comes to a point when Jason Holder decides in 12 months' time to retire from West Indies cricket, which I don't think is out of the question, Shamar Springer should be saying to himself, I am in pole position to be that seaming, batting, bowling, whatever it is, all-rounder, multi-format West Indies cricket. But that's on Shamar. That's on him to develop his game even further. I wouldn't, if I'm Shamar, if I was you, I wouldn't ask to go back to Barbados. I wouldn't want to be in the Pride franchise. I'd want to stick with the Windward Islands Volcanoes and continue development that way. But I'm eager to see how Shamar gets on against South Africa. Isaiah Thorne, obviously Ute Man bowler, West Indies Academy. He played 6 games in the West Indies Championship, 19 wickets at 23. We know that everybody's got huge stocks in Isaiah Thorne, but I don't want him anywhere near the West Indies men's senior side. I know he was carried to England as part of like a developmental tool to kind of show him that we believe in him. Kind of like when Jaden Seals was taken to New Zealand as a youth man, to show him we think you're a serious talent and we believe in him. Seals obviously did debut relatively quickly after all that. I do not want us doing the same for Isaiah Thorne. I beg you, just let the youth man develop properly. Do not bring him straight into the West Indies team. I know he's got pace. I know he looks like he could do something, but let the man develop still. Let the man develop still. Don't let me see his name called up in a West Indies senior squad for a minimum 18 months at the. I know because I know people will be quick to do it. So I'm putting an 18-month ban on anybody thinking about Isaiah Thorne being in the West Indies senior men's team. Kevin Wickham, and again, he could challenge. He could challenge that middle order. He had that bereavement in the middle of the domestic season. He was the 7th highest run scorer in the championship, 449 runs for 6 matches, at an average of 50, 100, 250s. Had played for the academy. He's now playing for Barbados. He's made the transition from the academy setup into his home franchise, home nation franchise, and looks like there could be some serious potential there with Kevin Wickham. Let's continue to see how he develops. The next time we have an A tour, want to see Kevin Wickham on it, want to see some further development from him. He shouldn't be getting called up. I don't want them to make the mistake that they've made with Kurt McKenzie, with Kevin Wickham, where they call him up before he's fully ready. But again, he's one for us to see the development. I think Kevin Wickham's what, 22? Oh, let me see how old Kevin Wickham is. He's a Ute man out here. Don't want us to rush the Ute man straight into the team, but he's clearly somebody who's got a chance of making his way into West Indies setup within the next 18 months. He is 21 years old. Just let Ute man just develop normally, please. I know there will be a rush to try and bring him in. Please let him just develop at a normal pace. 21 years old. And then lastly, Kemar Roach. So I have it on good authority that prior to the change in selectors, the plan was to ask Kemar Roach to retire after the England tour. Again, people will be like, what, Mash? How do you know this? Trust me, the man. The plan was for Kemar Roach to retire after the England tour. Obviously, Kemar then got injured. Having seen how the bowling has gone in the England tour, my thing is this. Kemar Roach is 36 years old. I know there's going to be people in this chat right now in the comments below who are going to be Mash, shut up, XYZ. Kemar Roach is 36 years old. If it was me, and if I was a selector, I would be saying to Kemar Roach, 18 more months. 18 more months, if your body can handle it and if you still have a desire to play for the West Indies. 18 more months, I still want you to play for the West Indies in red ball cricket. Not necessarily every single test, but you're still in the squads and you're still going to play when we think that your bowling is conducive to the conditions on offer, and more importantly, that your experience will help the bowling attack. I don't care who you are, we miss Kemar Roach badly in England for his experience, his nous, and his ability to bring control and bowl a test match length. You lot saw what happened in England. You lot saw how many of the bowlers struggled when they came onto the pump. You saw how many of them struggled to either bowl with control or at least bowl genuine wicket-taking deliveries. And I kept watching, whether it was at Trent Bridge, whether it was at Lords, whether it was at Edgbaston. I kept watching going, Kemar would have controlled the situation here, or Kemar would have walked up to one of these Ute guys and said, bowl this length. This is how you correct what you're doing right now. This is how you bowl in England. And we missed that. Yes, there will be people in the comments below who will say Kemar's time has been and gone. If you want him to do that, have him as a consultant in the squad. But I'm saying this, we are not good enough yet in the bowling stocks to move on from Kemar Roach. So what if the plan, like I said, my belief and what I've been led to believe is that they wanted Kemar to retire after England. Obviously, we've now changed selectors. No one knows who's even selecting the team anymore. But selectors, whoever you are and whoever's got a say in what's going on forward, sit down with Kemar and ask him for 12 to 18 months more whilst you work stuff out as to succession planning, because we ain't ready yet to ask Kemar to step to one side. That's just my take on it. If Kemar plays in this South Africa game, Brian Lara, which I expect him to do so, and if he is fit, he walks straight back into the team for the first test against South Africa. I done talk. Listen, ladies and gents, that's a lot there. That's a lot for you lot to get stuck into. That's a lot for you lot to start bashing your keyboards in protest at out at something that I've undoubtedly said that you don't agree with, cool, get at me in the comments below. You already done know how we do on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. There's plenty of imitators out there, plenty of West Indies cricket content channels and it's flattering. It's flattering to see all of you like develop your own channels now and follow in our path. But check this out. You're not as good as us. I'm Machel St. Patrick here at one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. By the way, I'm not asking no questions. That's just facts. You can find us at Carib Cricket on all the social media handles. Like, share, subscribe, road to 10K, all of that. You can support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast at www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. As little as $1, whatever your currency is, will do. Helps keep the movement on the road. And as I say, I will be in Trinidad next week for the first test, Queen's Park Oval, West Indies versus South Africa. So particularly if you're a Trini or Trinbagonian, Tobagian, well, man, about to get stressed in the comments. But if you are going to be there, hit me up. Let's lime, let's chat, let's reason, let's do some content. I'll be Machel St. Patrick, who one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.